My colleague said, "You have a family, and I have nothing to lose." And a week later, I was faced with a choice that would ruin everything. Please read all the way through, because by the end, you're going to question who really crossed the line. It started with a colleague's offhand comment about my family, and ended with me standing between two lives I couldn't save at once. I'm Caleb, 37 years old, male. I work in logistics at a mid-sized manufacturing firm in Michigan. Married to Sarah, 35, dad to our two kids, Ellie, 9, and Ben, 6. We live in a modest ranch house with a busted porch light I never get around to fixing. Life isn't glamorous, but it's good. Routine, stable. I like my coffee black, my schedule predictable, and my coworkers tolerable, except for Mason. Mason, 42, male, joined our company about 10 months ago as a contractor turned full-timer. He's the kind of guy who makes a room colder just by walking in. You know the type. Always 5 minutes late, smug like he knows a secret you don't. Said he used to work overseas. Some vague consulting gig he never explained. Tall, wiry, chain smoker vibes. Real dark alley behind the bar energy. At first, I tried to be decent. We all did. Invited him to Friday lunches, made small talk. But Mason, he didn't do friendly. If someone else succeeded, he had something to say about how they cheated. If someone made a mistake, he never let it go. The guy was poison, but because he worked cheap and finished projects fast, management kept him. Mason sat 2 cubicles down from me, close enough to hear my calls, close enough to overhear my life. He knew I left every day at 5:15 sharp to pick up my kids. Knew Sarah sometimes texted me during the day with, "Can you grab milk?" type messages. And at some point, I guess he decided that made me weak. Predictable. A man with something to lose. I didn't see it coming. How bad it would get. The first red flag was the voice recording. He accidentally sent a file to the team's Slack, claiming it was for a client. It was 5 seconds of my voice, clipped from a private Zoom. Me venting about the new inventory software. Nothing crazy, but out of context, it sounded bad. My boss asked about it. Mason just smiled and said, "Oh man, must have been an accident. Weird file names, right?" The second red flag came when my daughter's school called. Someone had called pretending to be me, asking about early pickup. They flagged it, thank God, because the guy didn't know our safety word. I didn't think of Mason at first, but when I got back to my desk that day, he looked up from his monitor and said, "Crazy world, huh? Gotta protect your kids." Then last Tuesday, we were alone in the break room. I was getting coffee. He was just standing there, leaning against the counter, eyes locked on me like a snake waiting for movement. "You've got a nice little setup, Caleb," he said. "Thanks, I guess," I replied, trying to keep it neutral. "You got a wife, 2 kids, a mortgage, PTO, a reason to behave. I've got, well, let's say I don't have those kinds of constraints." I froze. The tone wasn't casual. It was a warning. A threat dressed as philosophy. Then he smiled and added, "That's the difference between you and me, buddy. You've got a family and I've got nothing to lose." He walked out. Just like that. And a week later, I was staring down a choice that could cost me everything. Because Mason crossed a line that I didn't even know existed. And I had to decide, save my career or protect my family. The thing is, I wasn't sure I could do both. I didn't sleep the night after Mason said that. His words stuck to my brain like gum on a shoe. Grimy, hard to scrape off. I've got nothing to lose. That wasn't office banter. That was a warning shot. Sarah noticed, of course. We were sitting in bed, lights off, her legs curled under the blanket like always. She looked at me and said, "You're grinding your teeth again. That guy still bothering you?" I didn't want to drag her into it. "He's just weird," I mumbled. "It's nothing." But it wasn't. Because weird doesn't explain what happened the next day. Wednesday morning, I got to work and found a sticky note on my desk. One of those generic yellow squares, nothing written in it but my own personal nightmare. Ask Sarah about the messages. I felt my stomach hit the floor. I called her immediately. She sounded groggy. She was getting the kids dressed. I asked if anything weird had happened, if she got any strange messages. She paused. "Actually, yeah. Someone emailed me last night. It went to spam." "What did it say?" "Just some screenshots. Looked like texts. From you. To someone named Jenna, but I know they're fake. Caleb, they used some old profile pic of yours from like 5 years ago. The formatting was all off." I nearly dropped the phone. Mason had faked cheating texts, sent them to my wife. I hadn't even thought he could do something like that, let alone would. That night, after the kids were in bed, Sarah showed me the emails. Subject line, "Not who you think he is." And there they were. Dozens of fake messages. Photoshopped to look like I was sexting some woman. The timestamps were cleverly spaced. A few even referenced work complaints, like I was venting to some mistress about Mason. My name, my face, my reputation, all weaponized by some lonely, bitter bastard who probably thought it was a game. Sarah didn't believe them, thank God. But the damage was done. She started locking her phone, asking when I'd be home, doubting things I never gave her a reason to question, and I knew exactly who to blame. I confronted Mason in the parking lot the next morning. We were the only two out there, early birds before most of the office showed up. I walked right up to his driver's side window, knocked twice. He didn't roll it down, just smirked at me through the glass. I mouthed, "Why?" He shrugged. That was it. Later that day, I found a post-it under my mouse pad. Same handwriting. "You poke the bear, you get the claws." I reported it to HR. I showed them the notes, told them about the voice file, the fake screenshots, everything. They nodded sympathetically, said they'd look into it. But Mason, he was too smart to leave real fingerprints. The messages to Sarah were from a burner email. The notes were on regular sticky paper with no prints. The voice clip could be dismissed as accidental. HR gave him a verbal warning. Mason looked at me like he'd won the lottery. And that's when I realized something chilling. He wasn't just messing with me. He was dismantling me, layer by layer. And the next move? It wasn't going to be notes or emails. It was going to be personal, real world, no hiding. I told Sarah to start locking the doors when I wasn't home. I changed my passwords, got a dash cam, started walking to my car with my keys clenched like brass knuckles. But it wasn't enough, because that Friday, Mason made it clear he wasn't done. He was just getting started. Friday started like any other day. Eggs for the kids, coffee for me, kisses goodbye, backpacks on shoulders, Ben yelling something about a field trip we forgot to sign for. Normal chaos. The kind of domestic noise that used to feel grounding, but all I heard that morning was silence beneath it. That sick, anticipatory silence before something hits. Because Mason had been quiet. Too quiet. I got to the office, logged into my terminal, checked email, calendar, nothing. No creepy post-its, no HR follow-ups. For a brief second, I let myself believe maybe, just maybe, it was over. Until 11:22 a.m. That's when my manager, Greg, tapped on my cubicle wall. "Hey, Caleb, can I see you in my office for a sec?" That tone. Not friendly, not casual. It was the HR voice. My stomach dropped. I walked in, and the door closed behind me. HR was already there, and the room was cold. "There's been a complaint," Greg started. "A complaint?" "From Mason. He says you've created a hostile work environment, that you've been following him to his car, leaving threatening notes, and stalking his social media." I actually laughed. "You believe that?" HR didn't blink. "We have to investigate any report seriously. And we also received an anonymous email containing screenshots of a violent text conversation, allegedly between you and a friend, about what you'd do to Mason if he pushed too far." I felt like I was watching my own funeral in real time. The screenshots were fake, obviously. I asked to see them. They refused, said they were under confidential review, but I already knew what they'd look like. He probably made me sound unhinged, like a man unraveling, which, honestly, wasn't far from the truth at that point. They put me on administrative leave. 30 days. Unpaid. Just like that, my job, my stability, my family's health insurance, gone in an hour. I walked out of that building feeling like someone had taken a crowbar to my ribs. Mason didn't need to yell or throw punches. He was suffocating me with paperwork, with digital lies, with death by 1,000 reputational cuts. And the worst part? I still didn't know why. Why me? I sat in the parking lot until my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I answered. "Not a fun meeting, huh?" His voice. Calm, amused. "You're sick," I said. "You're slow," he replied. "You keep thinking this is about something, but it's not. It's about nothing. That's the point. You have structure. You have a fence. I'm just fire. You think you're untouchable?" He laughed. Number I just know what a man with nothing to lose can do to a man with everything to protect. Click. That night, Sarah and I fought. Not because she didn't believe me, she did, but because our world was crumbling. Insurance, frozen, mortgage, unpaid this month. The kids, they didn't understand why Daddy was suddenly around but too tired to smile. And then, around midnight, someone knocked on our door. 3 short knocks. No doorbell. I opened it. No one was there. But on our doormat, folded neatly, was a printout. A photo of Ben and Ellie at recess, taken from somewhere outside the school fence. No note, just the photo. I dropped to my knees and dry heaved. This wasn't psychological anymore. It was physical, real, immediate. Mason was no longer trying to ruin my life. He was telling me I could take it if I wanted to, and the choice he was forcing on me. I didn't sleep that night, just stared at the photo on our kitchen table, the one of Ben and Ellie, smiling like normal kids do, completely unaware some psychopath had a lens on them. Sarah cried once, then went numb. She didn't speak much after that, just went into our bedroom and locked the door. I heard her on the phone, probably with her sister, probably saying things she didn't want me to hear. Things like, "What if this guy hurts them?" Or worse, "I don't know if Caleb can protect us." That hurt more than Mason ever could. The next morning, I walked into the local police station with a copy of the photo and a record of every creepy note, every fake screenshot, every email. I even had a thumb drive with a voicemail from Mason's burner number. The officer on duty listened politely, nodded a lot, then said, "Unfortunately, unless he's made a direct threat or there's proof of physical stalking, it's hard to take action." Did he say he would harm your children? No, but he's sending pictures of them to my house, legally. He hasn't trespassed. He hasn't directly threatened. We can start a file. But unless something escalates, I walked out of there with a rage in my throat. He was untouchable. A ghost made of paperwork, and every time I tried to fight fair, he just smiled from the shadows and turned the knife a little deeper. So I stopped fighting fair. I remembered something Mason said weeks ago. Drunk at a company mixer, of all places. He was 3 beers in and ranting to no one in particular about his old life. Said he used to be important once. Used to be a whistleblower. Burned some bridges. Got blacklisted. That's why he worked freelance now. I went home and started digging. It took a few hours, but I found something buried in an old Reddit thread linked to a security forum. A username, M4S0N Unchained, bragging about leaking sensitive emails from a former employer. The company? Fortwell Defense Contractors. 5 years ago. Major NDA violations. They never pressed charges, but they did fire the guy behind it. Guess who? Mason had nothing to lose because he'd already burned every bridge, every job, every contact, gone. No family, no friends, no LinkedIn, just temp gigs and a growing grudge against the world. I knew what I had to do. I made a burner email. No name, no identifiers. Sent a tip to Fortwell's legal department. Former contractor leaking proprietary data from unsecured personal devices. Subject still violating NDA terms. Attached is a sample file name and old forum handle. Cross-check internal records. Then I waited. And while I waited, I prepared. I printed everything. The emails to Sarah, the fake screenshots, the photo of my kids, Mason's burner number. I made 5 copies, 1 for HR, 1 for Greg, 1 for a lawyer, 1 for my personal records, and 1 I left in a sealed manila envelope under Mason's windshield wiper with a note inside. Game's on. But now I play dirty too. Monday morning, HR called me back. Suddenly they were re-evaluating the situation and asked me to come in for a second conversation. But before I could even drive there, Mason beat me to it. Literally. When I pulled into the lot, I saw flashing lights, 2 cop cars. Mason was in handcuffs, screaming, veins bulging in his neck, eyes wide and furious. He'd punched Greg in front of the whole floor. Why? Because Fortwell called him back that morning, asked some questions, said they had legal matters to discuss. He lost it, went into Greg's office and accused him of setting him up. And when Greg told him to calm down, Mason snapped. That moment, that was the inflection point. Not just because I got my job back, but because now everyone knew who Mason really was. Unstable, dangerous, poison, and he knew I was behind it. He just didn't know what else I had planned. Update 1. Hey Reddit, thought I'd check in since, wow, y'all blew up my inbox. To the dozens of people who said, move your family ASAP, yeah, we did. Rented an Airbnb 2 towns over, told the school we were traveling for a family emergency. It wasn't cheap, but peace of mind never is. The kids think it's a mini vacation. Sarah doesn't sleep much. I barely eat, but at least we're safe. Some of y'all said I should press charges. I tried. But again, Mason's clever. The assault charge? That's between him and Greg. The rest of it? Still not enough to nail him legally. Yet. And to the guy who said, you need to fight darkness with a mirror? You're not wrong. Because Mason's unraveling now. He left a voicemail on my personal number last night. Just breathing. No words. Just this slow, shallow breathing. Like he wanted me to know he was still out there. But here's the thing. I'm not scared anymore. He thinks I still have everything to lose. He's wrong. Because I've already chosen. And he doesn't know what that means. I didn't go to work the next day. Not because I was scared, but because I had work of a different kind to do. Mason thought he played in the shadows. That chaos was his weapon. But the thing about chaos, it leaves fingerprints, noise, mess. I stopped thinking like a victim and started thinking like a dad, because that's what this had become. He didn't just try to ruin me. He dragged my kids into it, made Sarah cry behind locked doors, made Ben ask why the vacation house didn't have his favorite cereal. So yeah, time to burn the bridge behind me and salt the ground under his feet. Remember that burner email I used to tip off Fortwell? I used it again. But this time, I wasn't sending info to corporations. I sent everything to everyone else. I posted screenshots from Mason's old whistleblower threads to Reddit forums under his real name, tagged his account, linked his username to the court documents from the Fortwell firing. Let the cybersecurity subreddits do what they do best. Dig. Within hours, someone found old tweets, a blog post, a throwaway Reddit confession where he bragged about being the reason 2 marriages ended. Someone else found his burner Instagrams, Creepy photography of women in public places. Some obviously zoomed in. Some dated the same weeks his contracts had been terminated. I didn't write a single lie. I just lit a match and handed the internet a gasoline can. And then, I sent the final package. A flash drive, unmarked envelope, and a single note. If anything happens to me or my family, the rest goes public. This is your insurance policy. Act accordingly. I sent one to Mason's landlord, another to his newest client. He'd just picked up a small contract through a temp agency doing warehouse audits. And one, just for fun, to the HR director who dismissed my initial complaint. And finally, the last one, I hand-delivered it to Mason's front door. I knocked. Once, loud. He opened the door in a stained hoodie and jeans, eyes wild and tired. He hadn't shaved, looked smaller somehow, like the chaos was eating him now. He didn't say anything. I didn't either. I just handed him the envelope. His hands shook. He opened it, read the note, saw the drive. Then he looked up at me and said, voice hoarse, "You don't get it? I'm not scared of you." "I know," I said. "That's why this ends your way, not mine." I turned and walked away before he could speak again. I heard the door slam, and for the first time in weeks, I smiled. Because Mason wasn't untouchable anymore. He was radioactive. By the end of the week, he was dropped from his new contract. A Reddit thread with 7,000 upvotes had dissected his entire online footprint and compiled a dossier so damning it became a case study on 2 forums. Someone emailed it to a journalist. By Monday, I got a message from HR. Mason's employment was officially terminated. No NDA this time. They were reassessing workplace safety policies. They offered me my job back. I told them I'd think about it. But then, Mason showed up at the Airbnb, in person, uninvited, and unhinged. He was standing in our driveway, just standing there, middle of the day, bright sun. Kids were inside watching cartoons. Sarah had gone to the store and I, like an idiot, had stepped outside to grab something from the car without checking. There he was, Mason, wearing a jacket like he was trying to hide something underneath. Hood up, hands in his pockets, face tight with whatever twisted version of composure he thought he still had left. I froze. He didn't move, just tilted his head like he was studying me or waiting for something. I didn't speak. I went right back inside, locked the door, and grabbed the baseball bat we kept near the pantry. I peeked through the curtains. He hadn't moved. I called 911. "Hi, there's a man on our rental property. He's been harassing my family. I have a restraining order." I didn't yet, but the dispatcher didn't question it. "We're sending officers now. Stay inside. Do not engage." But I wasn't thinking about the police. I was thinking about Ellie and Ben, their little backpacks still by the front door, their shoes, their innocence. I thought about the goddamn picture on the porch and how that moment had shattered something in me. That's when he started walking, right toward the front door. Not fast, just deliberate, like he had all the time in the world. I cracked the door open a few inches. "Get the hell off my property, Mason." He stopped, smiled. That same dead smile from the parking lot. "I just came to say goodbye. You're going to jail. Maybe, maybe not." He took one step closer. "But even if I do, you'll always look over your shoulder, won't you?" I gripped the bat tighter. My hands were shaking. I could hear the sirens in the distance, still faint. "Mason, I swear to God, that's the thing about men like you, Caleb," he said, his voice low and even. "You think rules protect you, but I've seen the inside of the world. There are no rules, just leverage." Then he pulled something from his coat. For half a second, I thought it was a weapon, but it was a photo, another goddamn photo, of me, in my car, at the gas station last week, from behind, blurry, distant, just enough to make its point. "I don't need to touch you," he said, dropping it on the porch like trash. "I just need you to feel touched." The sirens were getting louder. Mason turned, calm as ever, walked back to his car, got in. He was pulling away when the cops arrived. I gave them everything, the footage from our Ring camera, the voicemail, the emails. I had it in a neat little folder like some dad trying to make a case at a school board meeting. They took it seriously this time. He was arrested that night. For violating a restraining order I filed that day, with emergency processing. The kids didn't sleep that night, neither did Sarah. And me? I sat on the kitchen floor for 3 hours, just shaking. He was gone. But the damage? It had already been done. Update 2. Didn't think I'd be back so soon, but here we are. And this time, it's done. First off, thank you. Seriously. To every single person who messaged me, offered legal advice, DM'd support, or just told me I wasn't crazy, thank you. Reddit went to war for me harder than half my coworkers ever did. Second, the fallout. Mason pled no contest to harassment and unlawful surveillance. Turns out he had a record. Sealed stuff from another state. That helped. A judge gave him probation and mandatory mental health treatment, plus a 5-year restraining order that covers my entire family. Third, Sarah and I, we're good. Better, actually. This whole nightmare stripped us down to bone, but but we built something stronger from it. We've got a lawyer drawing up paperwork to sue his ass for emotional distress. The kids are back in school. I installed cameras. I breathe easier now. But here's the last twist, and it's why I'm really updating. Mason left me one more gift. After his sentencing, we got a letter. Handwritten. No return address. Inside was just one sentence. You never really had a choice. But that's where he was wrong. Because I did choose. I chose my family, and I chose to destroy the man who thought fear was stronger than love. It's been 3 weeks since Mason disappeared from our lives. On paper, everything's over. He's on probation. He's not allowed within 500 feet of me, Sarah, the kids, or anywhere we live or work. Legally, emotionally, geographically, he's gone. But trauma doesn't follow restraining orders. It hides in silence. In the quiet clicks of the front door lock at night, in the way Sarah jumps when the dryer buzzes too loudly, in how Ellie asks if we can go back to the funhouse even though we're home now. Ben flinches if I raise my voice during board games. That cuts deeper than anything Mason ever said or did. We keep telling ourselves we're safe now. But every time I take out the trash or drive to work or go to a parent-teacher conference, I feel it. That phantom presence. That ghost. The haunting isn't about Mason anymore. It's about what he showed me. How fragile everything really is. It's like he reached into my life and cracked the foundation just enough that I'll never fully trust the walls again. I don't talk about it with Sarah. Not really. She's doing better than me, or maybe she's just pretending better. She started therapy. I haven't. I keep saying I will, but I don't want to sit in a room and unpack this with someone who wasn't there, who didn't see the photo, who didn't smell that heavy silence in the air when he showed up on our porch. But I did start writing in this notebook. Every night after the kids are asleep, I wrote Mason's name once, then crossed it out. Now I write other things. Ellie's drawings, Ben's jokes, the way Sarah still sighs when she sits down like it's the first time she's exhaled all day. I write it all because I need to remind myself that life is still happening, that love survived this, that even if he cracked the house, the beams held. Last Thursday, we went to the park. Just a normal, stupid park with creaky swings and a metal slide that burns your thighs. The kids were laughing. Real, belly laughs. I sat on the bench holding Sarah's hand and I realized, this is the revenge. This is what he never had. Joy. Stability. Someone to come home to. He tried to break me because he had no one who'd care if he broke. And he failed. Because in the end, I still have this. It's quiet revenge. Software. No headlines. No fireworks. But it's mine. And I think maybe that's enough. Or at least it has to be. But then yesterday, we got a delivery. No return address. Just a small package. Plain cardboard. Inside, nothing but a USB drive. And a note. Still watching. I stared at that drive for 6 hours. Didn't tell Sarah. Didn't touch it. Just sat there at the kitchen table, the little black rectangle resting on an unopened piece of junk mail like it might explode. He wasn't supposed to be able to reach us. Mason was banned, blacklisted, legally bound. But the note was in his handwriting. And the USB. That was a dare. At 2:43 a.m., I caved. I plugged it into my old work laptop, the one with no Wi-Fi, no personal files, nothing connected, air-gapped, just in case. My hand was shaking as I clicked open the folder. There were only 3 files. No virus, no malware. Just rot. File 1, a folder titled Daddy's Little Secrets. Inside, screenshots of my private browser history. Nothing criminal, nothing extreme, but personal. Therapy forums. Parenting threads about anger management. Late-night searches for things like how to know if you're a good dad. One clip from a security cam outside a liquor store showing me buying a bottle of whiskey at 10:30 p.m. last month. Mason had labeled it Midlife Crisis, Exhibit A. File 2. A document called Testimony. It was a fake affidavit, written like a court transcript. It detailed a fake affair with a coworker, named dates, times, places I'd snuck off. Even fake text logs, all fabricated. But the format looked real enough to pass a casual glance. And at the bottom, in bold letters, just waiting for the right inbox. File 3. A video. Just a few seconds long. It was me, sitting on the front porch 2 nights ago, holding Ben in my lap. We were watching stars. The video was shot from inside a parked car down the street. I slammed the laptop shut so hard it echoed through the house. I wanted to scream. Instead, I sat there, eyes locked on nothing, hearing blood rush through my ears like a tide. This man, this thing, wasn't done. Jail hadn't broken him. Restraining orders hadn't scared him, because he didn't want freedom. He wanted me afraid. But here's the thing. You can only push a man so far before fear burns out, before it calcifies into something else. Rage, resolve, clarity. I didn't call the police, didn't message HR, didn't warn anyone. Instead, I called a contact I'd made during the Fortwell dig. Someone from one of the cybersecurity forums. He lived 2 counties over, worked in digital remediation, said if I ever needed a ghost buried, He knew the dirt. I drove to him the next morning with the laptop and the USB. He took one look at the files and said, "This guy's got backups," but he also left a signature. 2 weeks later, Mason was arrested again. Turns out, his probation forbade possession of surveillance footage, especially of minors. But that's not what ended him. What ended him was what they found on his laptop. Dozens of folders, labeled with names, mine, my wife, my kids, my boss, my HR representative. Years of obsession, patterns, tags, photos. It didn't just get him sent back to jail, it got him committed. He's in a facility now. Not the prison kind, the padded kind, and this time, no probation, no outreach, no contact, gone. Forever. And me? I walked back into my house, sat down across from Sarah, and finally said it. "I'm done being afraid." She cried. I didn't. I felt clean, because for the first time in months, there were no shadows in the hallway, no headlights pausing at the end of the street, just quiet, just peace, and just us, still standing, still whole, still here. Thanks for sticking with me, Reddit. Your comments, your outrage, your insane DMs, it all got me through. He thought he could break me because he had nothing to lose. But the truth? That's why I won. Because I had everything to protect.